Howdy, howdy. Welcome to the Disruptive Technology Hangout. With me, as always, is my partner, Laurier Lever. Laurier is the Vice President of Development for TK Environmental and King Sunshine Solar System. He's an inventor and has patented technology that has literally built million-dollar companies. He sold his last company that used his patented technology and purchased TK Environmental, and now he's passionately continuing his work with recycling and solar power. And so tonight we're really excited to share with you some disruptive technology that is currently being tested. It's not really available to the masses yet. The general public does not have access to the solar impulse. It's the number 2. This is their second solar-powered airplane that has been flying around the globe. And so me and Larry have been following the solar impulse, I think since the first one was flying around. And there's been, I think they just headed off on another leg of their trip. But anyway, we've been following them for a while, and we thought, well, we should be talking about this on Disruptive Technology Hangout, because should they be able to bring this technology to a point where we can use it for commercial passenger air and commercial freight air, potentially people's ability to fly could increase dramatically. Because from my understanding, a tank of jet fuel costs the airlines more money than it does to employ their entire flight crew for said flight that uses that tank fuel. So fuel expenses are huge for the airline industry, and the thought of being able to get on a solar-powered commercial jet and not only eliminate pollution, but eliminate a big chunk of the expense will mean total disruption for airplane flight all around the globe for people everywhere. So Larry, can you tell people a little bit more about Solar Impulse and its history and the guys that are piloting it, that have developed the technology, and whatever else that you know that you can share with our viewers?
Sure. There's a couple of pilots. One guy's name is Bertrand Picard, and they've been kind of flying the Solar Impulse 2 in tandem. Mr. Picard, and I'm trying to remember the other pilot's name. I can't remember it off the top of my head. But anyways, the history of this plane uh, has been pretty amazing. They last year they took off from they flew from Japan to Hawaii using um, just solar power and batteries, and it was a 5-day flight. But this plane was flying with absolutely no fuel other than the sun, and it's a huge aircraft. The wingspan, I think, is as big as a wingspan of a 747, yet the aircraft itself weighs as much as your average family car, which is not very heavy. So literally, it's like a flying solar panel with 4 engines on it. So had taken off, I believe, from where did they take off from? I thought it was somewhere in the Middle East. They might be wrong on that, but anyways, when they took off, the flight went really well, and after most of the trip, the big trip from uh, China or Japan to Hawaii, the 5-day trip was kind of hard on the plane, and they ended up damaging the batteries. And so, how the batteries got damaged might have something to do with the cooling system. They kind of opted not to have a cooling system for the batteries. I have a funny feeling they probably thought that that the altitudes they would be flying at, the batteries would be fine, but apparently that wasn't the situation. Oh yeah, the other pilot's name is Andre Borschberg, and these two guys are Swiss. I couldn't remember his name. Hooray, Switzerland. Anyways, that's my roots. Um, so when they flew from Japan, I was watching it pretty much for the whole 5 day flight because this is super duper history being made to go from Japan to Hawaii. I'm not sure exactly how long it takes by boat, but it's probably a little um, longer than 5 days. Anyways, when they landed, I believe in sometime in October, September or October, they touched down in Hawaii. They had to recoup, and it was a real big event. And then that's what I mean. They found out the batteries in the plane were fried. But I got a funny feeling it's just an excuse for some Swiss people to hang out in Hawaii over winter. I, I could be wrong on that, but you never know. Anyhow, it's ironic that over the past, over that period of time, from when they landed in Hawaii to now when they're taking off, uh, they haven't taken off yet. They have to check the weather patterns and make sure it's safe to go to continue on to their journey. And the next place they'll be flying to is going to be Phoenix, Arizona, in the U.S. So that's going to be wickedly awesome because this I don't think this aircraft has actually been to North America yet. I know it's been to places in the Middle East and Africa and a lot of tests flying around there. But yeah, I was right. They started in Abu Dhabi, so all these little trips they made. The biggest one was the 5 day trip from Japan to Hawaii. Now with these new, they're putting new batteries in, and as I was saying, the technology since they landed in Hawaii to now has actually changed. There's in that short span or short time frame, I do believe they're going to be putting batteries in it that are actually batteries that have been improved from the ones they used flying from Japan to Hawaii. Isn't that just incredible? Yeah, and they're solar powered batteries, of course, so they're going to be designed. Probably, I don't see these guys having a problem making the rest of the flight um, from from Hawaii to Phoenix, over the Pacific. There, it's kind of a long trip, but the thing is, they've got to wait till the weather is perfect for them. And I don't know this year being an El Nino year how that's going to really affect things for them because um, well, we all know in Canada, especially or in Alberta, the effects that El Nino has had on our climate here just dramatic. First time ever in my life, being a Canadian, have I ever gotten a mosquito bite in April. Usually in April, we're uh, we're we're still testing the solar heat collector in with King Sunshine Solar Systems in winter with lots of snow on the ground. So yeah, it's really weird. So I think the El Nino weather effect or whatever it's called, the weather deal, might affect their flight from Hawaii to Phoenix. I don't know. We're gonna have to wait and see. But I'm pretty sure it's off the coast of Mexico that the El Nino actually starts to formulate and build up its power. And if you're not familiar with El Nino, it's basically it's a warming trend that happens in the ocean, which is probably it's suspected that it's due to not so much naturally occurring things, but because of the increasing temperature of the planet um, through greenhouse gas emissions, stuff like that. That has caused this body of water off the Pacific to start heating up, and it because of the way the weather works and the way the air flows, that hot section of ocean affects the climate for all of North America. So you get really weird stuff happening for North America. I shouldn't say really weird, but different types of climates that we're not really used to. So, and it doesn't occur that I can't remember when the last El Nino was, but it was some years back, and I remember it being, I believe we had it was 1998 possibly that we had a black Christmas where it was the first time I ever saw Christmas, being a Canadian, where there was no snow on the ground. Um, so that was in the late 90s, I believe. And so here we are in 2016, and we have a completely solar powered plane that's flying around the globe. So once it gets to North America, I'm pretty sure that if the batteries are all fine, it's going to continue on its way, and I think it stops somewhere halfway across the continent, and then it'll definitely stop in New York. And then the Atlantic crossing is what's going to be super duper exciting, because this is they're going to actually I should say their flight path from Japan to Hawaii was actually kind of dipped southward, and now um, which I don't know if it affected their plans, but definitely I remember they were monitoring the weather intensely before they took off. So they were supposed to take off, they didn't take off. They were supposed to take off, they didn't take off. We went through that for a number of days. But anyways, when they took off from Japan, of course, they go southwards to Hawaii, and now they're going to be going a little bit northwards. It's almost like a V-shaped pattern from Japan, Hawaii to Phoenix. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens when they have to go up flying northward in April. I'm not sure if probably the aviation, the FCC and people in the know with aviation would have a better understanding of what they're going to experience. And I'm sure they're in contact with those folks. And yeah, and so put in the new batteries. I think I heard something about the motors possibly being tweaked or even replaced. But I haven't really been following it. We've had kind of a lot on our plate with King Sunshine Solar, and so we were kind of focused on that. So, but yeah, here we are about 6 months later, 7 months later, they're taking off and heading to the United States. And are you still there, Trish?
Yeah, sorry. Okay, so I want to show you guys a video to give you a better idea of what we're talking about. So I did a blog post about this like a long time ago. So we'll see if you can see my screen. So there was can you see that?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Let's see here. Is that it? That's not it. Hold on. Okay. Yeah, I did a blog post about this a while, and this is going to play a video about it.
That was the pilots getting their heads.
Can you hear it?
Oh, yeah.
The great challenge we have is these long duration flights that nobody does, because normally you are many in one cockpit, at least two pilots, one can rest, the other one is in control, so that's very new. So the first question is how to get to sleep very quickly. So and the way I did it was to use meditation and breathing techniques to relax, to get away the stressful thoughts, so that I could calm my heartbeat and really sleep in a few minutes. That's what I'm using. Bertrand is using other techniques, self-hypnosis, which I think leads a bit to the same and have the same goal, and maybe leads to the same benefits, but with a different route.
we would like to analyze how deep the sleep is during the short naps that he will have during the flight. And the interesting thing is that he's going to use also hypnosis to help him fall quicker into deep sleep. So that he can go faster into relaxation to save energy. And at the end of the exercise tomorrow or Friday morning, that he is able to use techniques which will make it still possible that he is fully alert when necessary. That is the idea. So he's scheduled to have 20 minutes naps, and he may have about 2 to 3 hours of sleep per 24 hour, which is not much. So he has to be really focused on his different tasks on the plane, even after a few days with very short sleep.
For example, what we did just before, he kept his attention on his thumb for a moment, and that was the start of the experience. And after, Bernard gave also some suggestions with numbers, counting from 1 to 12 and back, and this is also a kind of suggestion to keep his attention. That's it, it's very simple.
So yeah, cool, right?
Yeah.
So something that I really love about this whole project is how the pilots are using meditation to be able to deal with the situation that they're in. And in the blog post, I wrote about some of the challenges that we're facing the pilots. 500 hours of total flight time. The cockpit is only 3.8 cubic meters, and they spend up to 5 or 6 days and nights in a row. They deal with extreme temperatures ranging from -40 centigrade to +40 centigrade. And they also have to deal with a 0-point pressurization system. And they're only able to carry 5.2 pounds of food and 84.5 ounces of water. In addition to that, they've experienced some difficulties keeping in contact with the air controllers. So lots of challenges with this project. However, it's been seeing some success with the flight to Hawaii. Went really well, and the upcoming leg of their flight looks like that will be another achievement for them to put under their belt. And it's just super exciting to me how integral meditation was for the pilots to be able to deal with all of these challenges. And just the fact of being solitary, being by yourself, like being able to communicate with other people, but not to have like physical actual contact, or to be able to see the people and look them in the eye, that alone would be a serious strain on your average person, that spending all of that alone time. And I am super passionate about meditation, so I understand the healing properties of it, and I can see how, you know, being in that cramped meditation, relaxation is a big contributor of greenhouse gases. Isn't that correct, Larry?
You were totally gone there for about a minute. It was just a little breakup. What did you say? You'll have to repeat what you were saying because you.
Oh, just that the aviation industry is one of the biggest contributors of greenhouse gases. Is that correct?
Oh, it's definitely. I think it's the biggest actually.
Yeah, they burn a lot of jet fuel. So this the possibilities with this solar impulse for being disruptive to the aviation industry are like, it's wide open. Definitely, we've seen the airlines struggle over decades dealing with costs. And like I alluded to before, one of their biggest costs is the actual fuel that they have to burn to get those big planes up in the air. And from the looks of it, the solar impulse is super lightweight. So it's going to be some time before they can turn it into something big and user-friendly for commercial use. But for now, the testing of it is very exciting to watch.
Yeah, oh, for sure. You got to keep in mind some of this new technology that's coming out for automobiles with induction charging, where instead of having to plug an automobile into the wall of a building or something, you can actually charge the cars up with induction charging, where the vehicle just drives over something. So there might be something in the future here for, well, we all know that solar panels are going to improve over time, just as they have over the past few months. There's been changes with solar panels themselves that are just remarkable over the past since the Solar Impulse 2 landed in Hawaii. There's been new developments in solar. For example, those flexible solar panels that we talked about in one of the last few hangouts on disruptive technology. So there's a lot of possibilities, I think, for transport using solar energy and alternative types of energy. But I think, I can't remember who mentioned this to me a long time ago, that by using the solar energy of the sun, there's all these different ways of actually using that power that we haven't really looked at. And this was some guy, I remember it was about 20 or 25 years ago, I was talking to this physics major sort of dude, and he was saying that yeah, solar and solar panels are just the start of what's available for using solar power. And so yeah, for the Solar Impulse 2 and traveling in the air, you're right. This thing's not burning not releasing greenhouse gases whatsoever. However, it's a pretty fragile bird. It's very similar to, I think, stuff the Wright brothers were working on when they were just starting. It's a very similar era, that things are gonna, as we mentioned before in many of these disruptive technology hangouts, it's a new era of sustainability that we're entering into, where we're going to get away from burning things and using all these other forms of energy that nature provides for us.
Awesome. Yeah, so this is just one of many, many projects that are working to solve the issue of greenhouse gases. It seems kind of, I don't know, it seems kind of strange how people let this get to the point that it's at, because, to me and to like your average, to even to a little kid, when you go onto a busy street and you smell what's coming out of the traffic, the cars, that emissions, and we all like, okay, well, when you think about it this way, when the first person died of carbon monoxide poisoning because they were in their vehicle in a garage or something and poisoned themselves from the exhaust, you think that you would have thought that people would have saw how dangerous these emissions were, and that they would have started working on making a change to go for something cleaner. But somehow people saw that, oh, okay, these emissions coming out of our tailpipes are poisonous, and people have died being poisoned by it. But, you know, we're not going to try and find a better way, because I'm not too sure. It seems like the oil and gas companies just had so much clout that, I don't know, anybody that would have been trying to come up with solutions to eliminate this greenhouse gas, which that's not even what they called it at the time. It would have just been carbon monoxide poisoning. But you would think that people would have thought, you know, well, maybe this isn't the best way to deal with transportation, and that people would have started looking for alternatives. But somehow we got onto this gasoline kick, and people just are so addicted to fossil fuels, whether it's jet fuel or fuel for our cars, or like I talk to people regularly about the potential for electric vehicles, like the Solar Impulse. And they're just like, oh no, they're too slow, they're too infant. I'll never drive one of those. You know, I don't want to I want a loud car that people can hear me coming. I want a fast car that makes a lot of noise. And it's like somehow because these solar vehicles are so quiet and so just different, because they don't rumble the same way and stuff. Somehow certain people feel like, oh, they're just not powerful. However, the technology is proving that to be a myth, and yet some people are just resistant to the change. And I'm sure there's people even in the aviation industry right now that are looking at Solar Impulse and coming up with all the reasons why it would never ever work for commercial flight or for cargo flight, or because it's too heavy, and the solar power just couldn't lift that amount of weight, or it couldn't go that fast, or this or that or this or that. However, as we've seen with electric cars like the Tesla, they're coming to a point where they're very competitive with, you know, typical sports cars that go really fast and make a lot of noise. So I don't know, there's definitely a shift going on all around the world for people that are wanting to move in that direction. However, there's always the stragglers that kind of try to hold it back. So I'm just curious to see what the developments will be. And, you know, I desperately would love to have one of these planes. How cool would that be? Because, yeah, when you look at the expense of a plane, even to own a plane yourself, like a small plane, if you were to have your own personal small plane or small jet or whatever, like one of the biggest barriers of cost for your average person being able to have a plane like that is the fuel. So I don't know, it's super, super exciting. And I think that the first place that the Solar Impulse will be available will be to like single individual pilots that want to fly something similar to what they've got up there solo by themselves, but eventually could move to passenger planes, and maybe even big ones. I think big ones eventually. And so what else can we tell you about the Solar Impulse, Larry?
Well, you know that you made some good points about how the plane flies. The plane, I was thinking that when when this plane is actually flying in darkness, it's actually losing altitude because it flies up as close as it can to the sun during the day to gather up enough energy from the sun to charge its batteries. So if it's flying above the clouds, it has no problem charging up its batteries. And then once the batteries are charged, it starts to descend when the sun comes down. Well, not so much descend. It keeps running the engines at a rate where it kind of loses altitude. And I remember I was watching it live flying from Japan to Hawaii. I was waiting in anticipation as it was coming into land in Hawaii. It was losing altitude because the sun was going down, and or it was actually it was coming up to sunrise. Sorry, when it was landing in Hawaii. So it was on the last bit of charge on its batteries before the sun actually started to rise, and it was starting to rise when these landed. So when I was thinking there's some things that they could probably do for that a little easier, and I'm not sure if they considered putting helium in the wings or whether that would affect the way the plane actually flies. But I was thinking, yeah, why not turn it into a bit of a kind of a Zeppelin or an airship where you've got some kind of lighter than air gas on board the plane to actually provide a little more lift. So maybe the technology's not there. I was as far as in a structural way, maybe when it comes to using hydrogen, you have to you need a lot of space. However, I don't know exactly I looked at the construction of the plane. I'm not sure exactly what goes on the inside of the wings, or if the wings are hollow, because there's no need to put fuel anywhere. And I'm pretty sure the batteries are stored in the fuselage, which is the narrow part that the wings are attached to. So why not use the wings to provide a little more lift by filling up the wings with hydrogen? Is that possible? I don't know. I know that the wings on an airplane are designed in a way so that they're flat on the bottom and they're rounded on the top, and that gives it the ability to lift as wind hits the wing. Having that design causes the wing to lift. Aerodynamics is basically what it is. Um, so knowing that, yeah, you should. If there's nothing in the wings, yeah, they should be filling the wings up with um, some kind of lighter than air gas that is completely enclosed in a bladder or something, or some, you know what I mean, some way of containing a lighter air than air gas, providing that lift. And if you think about that aspect of this type of solar flight crossing the ocean is probably it's a tough one to cross. You know, you're either going to have to take a boat or you have to fly over it. You can't walk over it, you can't drive over it. So I think those are generally your two options. However, we know that the Nazis and other other civilizations were working on what some people called extraterrestrial aircraft, things that could spin, that were disc shaped, that would actually fly. So the standard design of a plane or an aircraft, it does not have to have wings and a fuselage. There are things that have been proven to fly and fly fast that are shaped like frisbees, and you've seen how fast a frisbee can fly. So maybe, and if you can imagine how much space you'd be able to cover over that type of design of an aircraft, you'd be able to fly with solar panels without a problem. You know, are you familiar with the thing I'm talking about? That type of plane. I can't remember what it was called, but the
Zeppelin?
Huh?
The Zeppelin? They had the
Oh,
airship.
this was like extraterrestrial kind of stuff that I think they were working on it in World War II, and then the technology was transferred to Area 51 or something like that. Or
I don't know. That's all a big secret, so there's no use speculating on that. But
well, the truth of the matter is,
considering the way that the Zeppelin airships worked, something like that could potentially work, but I don't know.
no, the truth
You
of the
wouldn't want to
matter
use
is,
hydrogen, right, or helium because of the explosive issue, but
the truth of the matter is, though, these devices have been proven to fly. They've made prototypes that are spinning discs, and they actually fly. So, if that technology works, doesn't that make more sense? Because you can put way more solar panels on it, which would provide you way more energy to lift. So, I think theoretically, we could be looking at something like the Solar Impulse 3, which is a completely different design of an aircraft. You look at the what's the other one called? The stealth bomber that the Americans, well, they didn't invent. They used the technology that was invented by someone a long time ago, which deals with the leading edge, providing some sort of crazy electrical lift. If you look at I think it's the stealth bomber, it's actually shaped like a right angle, and this plane flies incredibly well. So you could take that design of a stealth bomber and just cover that sucker with solar panels and go further, farther, and faster than the Solar Impulse. I personally think the Solar Impulse is a crappy design because it's a wing. It's just a I shouldn't say it's just a wing, but or a crappy design. It's not optimizing square footage, and that's what you have to do when you're dealing with solar power. Is you've got to use every square inch of the aircraft that you can. So a round, circular, or a stealth bomber sort of design, like a triangular, a 45 degree angle wing would fly further and faster than the Solar Impulse. Just look at the Solar Impulse. It's very skinny. The wing is very skinny. It's super long, but it's really skinny. So what if they made the Solar Impulse based on the dimensions of that wing, but in that triangle, that 45-degree angle shape, like a flying triangle? Think how much more power it would have. It would be well, I could probably do the math on it, but it would be more than twice the power that it's getting right now. And the pilot would sit, well, you just have to look at the stealth bomber, how it's designed, and why it flies the way it flies. So these are two guys from Switzerland, you got to remember, that have an idea to go around the world with its solar, which is awesome. It's completely awesome. I wouldn't be following it if it wasn't awesome. And so I think maybe we're the people, or the people listening to this disruptive technology hangout should be thinking about talking to, I think it's Lockheed Martin maybe, or Boeing, whoever designed the stealth bomber design.
I'm not too sure, but yeah, if you look into that, potentially maybe there's a opportunity there. I don't know that we'll have time for the next little while, but in the future.
And think about the way that you're familiar with the plane I'm talking about, right? The stealth bomber. It's got the right angle edge, and the edge looks like a serrated edge. Everything is nice angles, has nice angles on it, so you could just cover the whole thing with solar panels with every square inch, because you're not dealing with any circles. So maybe that in itself would be a better design. Simply, I want to go in the backyard and start building one right now.
Well, not right now, but possibly in the future. And definitely, that's what these hangouts are all about. When you see disruptive technology coming your way, your opportunity can just be in one small improvement. You don't have to come up with some outlandish new idea to make a ton of money and to make a huge difference in the world. just by taking something that already exists, maybe something that's existed for a really, really long time, and improving it, that can be your ticket. People always talk about, you know, building a better mousetrap. So yeah, it's just a matter of, like with this solar impulse, we know that it's working. It's proving itself. So it's pretty easy for anybody out there to kind of take what they've done and expand on it and attempt to improve it. And boom, you kind of put them out of business, or you steal their thunder, or whatever it is. But it's all about what the market demands and what the consumer wants. So if you can take what they've done with Solar Impulse and make it something that's going to be like a little more comfortable, maybe with a bigger cockpit and more ability to carry more weight, so you can have more food and water with you, and people can have a more comfortable flight. You know, you totally can, you know, create a landmark business with somebody else's idea. Just by improving it. And as far as patent law goes, you just need to make slight improvements to turn it into a whole new thing that can be that you can patent and protect, and then be able to hope that yours is the best for a really long time, so nobody comes along and improves it and then puts you out of business in the process. It's kind of how it always cycles through in a free market system, is that someone comes up with an amazing product, people love it, they buy it, they make a bunch of money, and then somebody comes along with something that's just slightly better, and all of a sudden the original business that had the original idea goes away, and the slightly improved product completely takes its place. It's happened over and over and over and over again with so many different businesses, so many different products. I'm thinking about in Think and Grow Rich about how he was talking about, oh, I totally lost my train of thought there. Video. There was somebody came up with something, and oh right, he was talking about the Woolworths stores and how, you know, everybody shopped at Woolworths, and it was like a 5 and dime store. And then, you know, as inflation occurs, they started having to raise prices on stuff. And then all of a sudden Walmart came in, and their store had a little bit of a different feel to it, just because of how they constructed it and decorated it and displayed the products. And they pretty much wiped Woolworths out. Like, there are still Woolworths stores on the planet. I saw one in Australia, and I was like, oh wow, I didn't think that this company even existed anymore. But in North America, Walmart has pretty much supplanted Woolworths, and it was like the go-to place. Everybody shopped there for everything, and then they didn't keep up with the times or change with what the market wanted, and most of their stores closed, and Walmart just kept opening new ones for a really long time. And then the same thing's happening now. We're seeing a lot of Walmarts and other big department stores that are closing stores. And in my opinion, it's because so many people are turning to Amazon.com and other websites to make purchases. Like, we were buying organic produce off the internet for a while and had it delivered right to us. And like, how much better is that than going to the grocery store? Although part of the reason why we stopped is that, you know, when you're buying produce, it's kind of nice to select, you know, the apples that you want. When we got the box, they kind of just put in what they picked out of it. So that's part of the reason why we don't subscribe to that service anymore. But it is a great service, and there's more and more of those kind of things popping up that just make things more convenient for you. Like, it is kind of nicer to be able to select your own watermelon out of the pile at the store. However, it's way more convenient to just have it delivered right to your doorstep. So with so many websites offering a lot of the products that exist in the stores, it's kind of a no-brainer to have it delivered to your door rather than to get in your car and drive over to the store and have to pick it up yourself. So all all throughout history, this is kind of the way the progression of humanity has gone, is that we're constantly just improving products and services, and whoever has the best product and service at the best price at that time wins. However, those winnings are never guaranteed, because anyone could come along at any time and offer a superior quality product or service, or offer maybe even an inferior quality product or service, but at a significantly lower price, and boom, you're in the red. And so it's just a cycle that perpetuates, and that's a big part of the reason why so many businesses fail, and even businesses that have been super successful can in the long run sometimes end up disappearing or failing, because of just the inability to adjust and shift to the changes in demand coming from the consumers. So yeah, that's basically the whole reason why we've put these disruptive technology hangouts together, is just to kind of brainstorm about the new ideas that are out there, and to help give people ideas of where we can take the technology, where there's potential opportunities for infrastructure that will support the technology. Like when you look at the solar impulse, how much different is an airport going to operate if it's dealing with solar powered aircraft that aren't even shaped like an airplane? Like the whole infrastructure of an airport would have to change to accommodate that. They may want to put in these induction generation systems for charging the planes. They may have to have a totally, completely different way of dealing with the air traffic, because it may move in a different way. Potentially, there's not going to be all the noise on runways coming from jet engines. So that's got to have some kind of effect on the people that work at airports. You know, maybe they don't have to use as much safety equipment as they do with the jet fuel run aircraft. Who knows where it's going to go? It's just these hangouts are just kind of in an effort to predict what might be possible and to point out potential opportunities, which we don't always have the ability, the resources, or the time to take advantage of these ideas and opportunities that we come up with, because we have projects that we're currently working on that have deadlines and stuff like that. So we have to stay focused on what we're doing, but to be able to get together a couple times a week and just discuss all this potential, eventually when our time frees up, when some of our projects are finalized and become profitable, we will have the time and financial resources to go back, be able to look at some of these hangout recordings and say, hey, you know, that one day we did that hangout about XYZ, and I think we should do something with that idea now, because nobody else has come along and done anything, and the people are, the marketplace is wanting or desiring this idea or innovation, and at that point we'll be able to move forward on some of these ideas that we come up with. But in the meantime, we're just excited to share them and hopeful that someone will pick up the ball and be able to create something great that will benefit all of us. So do you have any final thoughts on the solar impulse and its potential for disrupting the aviation industry?
Well, no doubt, you know, flying around the world without a drop of fuel is pretty awesome. And, you know, it's not the fastest airplane in the sky. However, it's faster than a balloon, or I think it's pretty much faster than a dirigible, like a Zeppelin or something like that. But I really think what's going to happen is, I think somebody's going to come up with a design that's similar to, you know, to the stealth bomber design, simply because the stealth bomber, believe it or not, is available to fly very, very far on a full tank of fuel. It doesn't hold a lot of fuel, but it's one of the aircrafts that will fly the furthest. So when you think of the Solar Impulse, yeah, it's definitely going to change things. However, somebody's going to come up with a design that's not going to have to stop. It's going to go faster, and it's going to be a flying wing design like the stealth bomber. You know, stealth bomber stealth, but you know, there's other things about it that make it a very incredible flying machine. And I think one of the main ones is, you know, it's up there and it doesn't want to come down. So yeah, I think it's all very disruptive, and that's where we're going to be heading with this technology. But guaranteed, you know, it's a war machine. The stealth bomber, the thing, the plane, the Solar Impulse 2 is just a regular airplane. It's not. It's a regular design, I should say, a common design of an aircraft. However, it's kind of flimsy, and it to me it seems really dainty, whereas a giant flying solar panel is what I'm thinking, you know, with just with 1, 2, 3, 4 bytes taken out of it. So, and I think that's going to be what's coming down the pike next, and it's going to be covered in solar panels, and this plane will probably not even need batteries during daylight, and it's going to cruise. It's going to be based on the stealth bomber design. I don't know if the design is available to the public. However, the engines on a stealth bomber are on top of the entire wing, so the air actually flows through it somehow, thus generating lift because the bottom is flat. So yeah, some really cool things are going to start happening in the near future here with solar power flight. It's got to happen, and I'm pretty sure in 10 years probably we're not going to be burning fuel in the sky. I don't think that's going to be happening. I think the design of air travel is going to change dramatically, and I hate to say it, but believe it or not, the stealth bomber is based on a lot of controversial technologies that have been discovered that weren't really man-made. We don't know where they came from.
Okay, well, on that confusing and contorted note, we'll have to close it off. We're coming up to the top of the hour, so I just want to invite anybody who's out there watching on our free energy page to click the button below and join us on the Empower Hour. Tonight we're having two amazing women, Angela Carter and Tracy Walker, that are going to be sharing some awesome, powerful, inspirational messages about making money on the internet. So as I was talking about before with Walmart stores closing down, and Sears has been closing some of their stores. It all has to do with people making the transition from brick and mortar business to click and order. People are becoming much more interested in consuming products via the internet. And whenever a product is sold on the internet, there is usually a person behind the scenes working on their computer as an affiliate, which means that whenever a product is sold, that person earns a commission. Like, for example, you could be an affiliate for Walmart.com or Amazon.com or almost any business or store, ClickBank. There's all kinds of opportunities for you to be able to sell products on the internet as an affiliate. And that's what the Empower Network is all about. Whether you already have a business, a product, and a service that you want to market on the internet, or you're looking for some products that you can market on the internet so that you can start your own little online enterprise and become a business owner. The Empower Network has all the tools, information, and resources to help facilitate you to do that. And you can learn so much more about that when you click the button below and join us on the Empower Network, which will be starting in less than 1 minute. So before I go, I just want everybody out there to know that I'm a firm believer that in this life, absolutely anyone can be, do, and have anything they want, or we can have everything we want. And I choose everything, and I hope you will too, because you can. So click the button below and listen to the Empower Hour to find out how. Thank you so much for watching. Have an amazing day. And if I don't see you in the future, I will see you out in the pasture soon. Thanks for watching, y'all. Bye. Bye, Larry.
Bye-bye.